Welcome back. This is day 3 of our 7-day transformational manifestation program. So far, we have learned that the world we see around us is a direct reflection of what we believe inside. And when we want to manifest something new into our lives, we have to do it by changing what we believe. And when we want to change what we believe in order to manifest something new, we use the tools of focus and imagination. The more we can focus our minds intensely on a rich, vivid, imagined experience of what we would like to manifest, the quicker that desired manifestation takes shape into our lives. Now, yesterday we focused on the element of focus, and today we're going to imagine what it would be like to imagine things in rich, vivid detail. So, before we really get started, I want to explain why this process works. Because it helps you to understand the process a little bit better, and when you understand the process, it's a lot easier to believe in that process. Again, the world around us is a direct reflection of what we believe, and that includes our beliefs about the manifestation process itself. So let me just clarify a little bit for you, just in case this is new information. So our beliefs become our reality. Where do we get our beliefs? Normally, we get our beliefs from the experiences that we have. When we experience something, we believe that this type of thing can and does happen. If we've never experienced something before in our lives, it's a little more difficult to believe that we can experience it, because does it really ever happen? I mean, the whole idea of alien abduction. Some people truly believe in that, and I have no problem with whatever they believe. It may be true. I don't know that it's true because I've never experienced it. I have my doubts about it because I have never experienced it. Some people feel the same way about getting rich. Some people feel the same way about finding a loving, harmonious, caring relationship. Some people feel the same way about feeling healthy and vibrant and full of energy. It's something they've never experienced, so they have their doubts about whether they can actually experience it. Sure, other people can experience it, but can I? When we experience something, we find it easy to believe that we can experience it again. So how does this relate to manifesting? When we focus our minds intensely on a experience inside our minds, a desired experience that we would like to manifest, if we do it with enough focus and enough clarity, then it gets recorded into our memory the same as a real physical experience gets recorded into our memory. Now, this is where the saying about the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a real experience and one that is vividly imagined. Well, as some people will tell you, of course the subconscious mind can tell the difference while it is happening, because the subconscious mind knows where that information is coming from. But after the fact, when it's all done and you're remembering something that happened yesterday, was it real or was it Memorex, as the old commercials used to say? If the experience is recorded into your memory with enough clarity, your subconscious mind cannot at that time tell the difference between something that actually happened physically and something that was imagined with enough detail. And so when we focus our mind and imagine what we would like to manifest in rich, vivid detail, we are creating memories within our mind. And the more of these memories that we add into our memory bank within our mind, the more times we imagine our desired outcome over and over and over and over again, maybe with slight differences, so it's not always the exact same thing all the time. The more we do this, the more memories we have in our mind that support the idea that this type of thing can and does happen to us. So if you've never experienced a loving relationship and you're not exactly sure how that really feels like, if you do your best to imagine it in rich, vivid detail as much as you possibly can, and you do that over and over and over again, I promise you, you will start to feel like this can actually happen. And you keep going, you're going to feel like, you know what? This is a normal part of my life. So I should be seeing it in my physical world. Why is it not here right now? And that starts to lean in the direction of the belief is solid. And when the belief is solid, the manifestation will take place. So that is the process of how this imagined experience within our mind becomes a belief, which is then reflected in the world around us. So, again, yesterday we addressed the idea and the element of focus so that you can focus your mind intensely by ignoring everything that is unrelated. And the more you focus on whatever it is that you want to manifest, the more powerful you are. So, focus equals power. Clear, rich, vivid, imagined details give focus to your focus. It gives direction to your intention. It's like the targeting system of a missile. The missile might have unlimited power to push itself in a lot of directions, but it's the targeting system that determines whether or not it hits its mark. And so by clarifying your imagined experiences, you are targeting your intention to make sure that it creates the outcome that you truly want. Okay, I think I've covered that in enough detail. Okay, so let me just give you a little bit of an example of how this actually works in practice. So one of the earlier manifestations that I actually performed at will, let's just say that, because the reason I want to say it that way is because the basic manifestation process is happening on a subconscious level all the time, whether we are intending it to work or not. It's just the way our lives work. Whatever we believe to be true becomes true in our lives, whether we're focused on it or not, whether it's intentional or not. So we are manifesting all the time, from the time we're born all the way to now, and as long as we're going to be here on this earth, we are always manifesting. But what I want to say is that one of the first few times that I actually consciously chose to manifest something and it actually worked. Okay, so I've already shared the story of being in the bookstore and manifesting money after finding the Joseph Murphy book. But there were some other experiences around that. And one of the things that started out being a coincidence, I will fully 100% admit that the first time, maybe the first two times, were probably coincidence. I can't say for sure, but most likely. But those coincidences helped build a belief. And that belief grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew to the point where I have a firm, confident belief that for some reason or another, I have the ability to influence the weather. You've also heard the story of dispersing a tornado. That is part of this belief, okay? So going back into what I'm trying to explain here, visualization, imagined experiences producing real results. Okay, so at one particular point, okay, I'm walking down the sidewalk, trying to get from one place to another, and it starts to rain. And it continues to rain, and it gets heavier. And it's like, oh, great. I really don't want to be wet right now. I mean, there's a time and a place for that, but that wasn't the time, and that really wasn't the place. So it's like, okay, I want to stop the rain. I want to stop the rain. Let me see what I can do here. And I remembered this game that I played as a kid, where we were driving down the road. We're going visit my grandmother, and it was raining, and I really didn't feel like I wanted it to rain. And so I played this game where I imagined a giant plastic dome over the whole area where we were. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, this plastic dome will stop the rain, it'll prevent it from falling down, and it'll just slide off the edges of the dome and it'll go someplace else. And it won't be raining here. And I imagined that. And within a few minutes, it actually did stop raining. And again, I fully expect that that was just coincidence, but it built a seed of belief. And sometimes that's all you need, is a seed of belief. And once you have that seed of belief, it can grow and grow and grow until it becomes a massive force. Okay, so that's where it started. So going back to the original story, I'm walking down the sidewalk and the rain's coming down. And I remember that experience as a kid. And I'm thinking, well, maybe there's a chance I can do this. So let me try this. Let me set the intention that I'm going to stop the rain. And so I stopped walking. I stood where I was. I focused myself, took a couple of deep breaths, and then I started imagining that giant plastic dome around the whole area where I was. And I imagined that it was stopping the rain, and it was pushing the rain away, and it was going somewhere else, and it was no longer falling where I was. And so I visualized the rain going away. I visualized the rain stopping, and I was visualizing this giant plastic dome. You can call it a force field, it doesn't matter. Call it whatever you want to. But I was imagining something stopping the rain. And within a few minutes, the rain stopped. It's like, wow, it worked again. And I was very happy. I mean, I actually did something. I actually created something that seemed to be a miracle because it was well beyond anything that we're physically capable of doing. So that time may also have been coincidence. I don't know, maybe. But that experience has happened over and over and over again, to the point where now I don't even question it. Now coincidence is no longer a rational explanation, because when you have a pattern, when something happens over and over and over again, it's no longer a coincidence. There is a pattern there. So the point that I'm making here is I visualized something that never actually existed in physical reality. But there was a logical reason why, if it did exist, then it would produce the effect that I wanted. That phrasing is important. If it did exist, there would be a logical reason why it would work. Okay? So, okay, there's been other situations where I have visualized certain things. Another thing that I want to bring back to your attention, another story that I mentioned, I believe it was yesterday, when I was in that rented room after having that bookstore money miracle, reading through the Joseph Murphy books, and that smoke detector was going off, and I commanded it to stop. Well, there was no real visualization there. But the next day, when I was remembering what that sounded like, and I was, quote, visualizing, you can say visualizing or imagining, I was imagining the sound. And in my imagination, in calling forth that memory, the sound was clear. The sound was clear. The sound was clear. And because I was focused on the sensation of sound, that manifested the experience of that smoke detector beeping again. I had no intention of starting it beeping again, so it was purely the imagination that made it start. That's the power of our clear, vivid imagination. We don't even have to intend for something to happen. We really don't have to have a firm belief that it's going to happen, even though the belief is definitely there, because there was that possibility. I'm going off into too many details. Let me try to stay on track here. Okay, so by imagining the sensation of the experience, that was enough to produce the experience in current time. Okay, another example that I want to bring out for you right now is when I manifested the relationship I now have with my wife, Linda. We've been together for 25 years. 25 years ago, I was focused on manifesting what I would call the perfect relationship. And in that process, I was relaxing, I was setting an intention within my mind that what I imagine inside myself will become my reality. I am creating a new future for myself. Those were some of the thoughts that were going through in my mind. I had a firm belief that I could manifest whatever I chose simply by imagining it. So that's how I programmed myself whenever I sat down on these imagination sessions. And then I would just simply daydream about the perfect relationship. I would imagine myself with somebody. I would imagine us talking. I would imagine us holding each other. I'd imagine us kissing. I would imagine us going different places, to restaurants, to theater, to concerts, traveling, all sorts of different things. I imagined it all, everything that would be part of a normal, healthy relationship. I imagined it in detail. And after a period of time, whether it was 15 minutes, whether it was a half hour, however much time I spent in that imagination session, when it was over and I relaxed and pulled myself back from it, the feeling that I had at the end of it was the same feeling that I would have after an enjoyable date. It's like you go out with somebody, you go have a good time, you really enjoy being with that person, and then you both go home to separate homes, and the feeling that you have in that situation was the same feeling that I had after those imagination sessions. That feeling was a clear indicator that I had imagined it in enough detail. So if you finish a session of, call it visualization, call it imagining, call it daydreaming, whatever you want to call it, if you finish the session and you have a feeling that you have just experienced a taste of what you want to manifest, you've done it well. That is what you're after. So, how do we develop the ability to imagine things in rich, vivid detail? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to link to a video up here because I've already talked about this, about different exercises that we can do to train our ability to imagine things in rich, vivid detail. Just as a summary here, whenever you see, touch, taste, smell, feel anything, hear anything, all of the senses, anytime you are interacting with the world around you, you have an opportunity to pay attention to the details. There's an old saying about, I know that like the back of my own hand. Let me ask you a question. How well do you know the back of your own hand? I mean, if you take a look at your hand and you look at the texture of the skin, you look at the veins underneath the skin, you look at how hairs on the skin lay down, assuming you have any. I'm not going to assume that, but whatever details are part of your hand, notice them. The back of your hand, the front of your hand, the palm of your hand, whatever. Pay attention to those details. Imagine those details as clearly as you can, because what you want to do is after you physically look at something, close your eyes and mentally look at the exact same thing. Try to remember all of the details you just saw. And after a little bit of time of trying to visualize that as clearly as you can, open your eyes and take another look. What details did you forget about? What details were not recreated inside your mind? Focus on those details. Now close your eyes and bring those details into that previous picture. Add those details to what you already had. And then go back and forth with that a few times. Open your eyes, look at the details, close your eyes, look at the complete picture again. And again, it's not just sight. That's just one element of this. But focus on sight for a while, and then focus on textures. And again, whatever you're dealing with, if you're just dealing with your own hand, feel the texture of your skin. Notice it. How does it feel? How warm is it to the touch? And obviously, you can do this with any other object. You can pick up a rock off the ground and look at it and notice the textures on the rock, notice the shapes and the colors and everything else about it, and then recreate all of those sensations within your mind. You can do the same thing with food. When you're eating a meal, take one bite, notice all the flavors, the smells, all the textures, and everything else that is a part of that experience. And then after you have done it physically, do it mentally. Imagine taking a bite of the same food and recreate that experience within your mind. Now, this process, this exercise that you can do at any time, you can do it throughout the day. And it doesn't have to take time away from anything else you're doing, maybe a few seconds here and there. As you do this, you are doing two different things. First of all, you're exercising your imagination, but you're also communicating a message to your subconscious mind that the details are important. And when you communicate this message to your subconscious mind that details are important, then when you close your eyes and you imagine this outcome that you would like to manifest, the subconscious mind knows that you want the details, and it will give you all the details it can, pulling information from previous experience. And that's why, as you go through your day, if you pay attention to the details, you're filing away all of those details back into your memory, into your subconscious mind, so that it can pull the elements that it needs to create the picture, the experience of the outcome you would like to manifest. Sights, sounds, smells, tastes, textures, all of those elements will become more available to you when you pay attention to them. Now, besides the five physical senses, you also want to address emotion, because the feelings that you have on an emotional level can be just as important, if not more important, than the physical sensations that would be part of this outcome you would like to experience. Going back to the story that I told on the first day, that I've told numerous times throughout a lot of different things because it's such an important example. When I was in that bookstore reading the book, following those 4 steps, and responding to everything I was told, it said to feel what you would feel once the manifestation takes place. That meant emotions as well. And so I felt a sense of relief. I felt a sense of joy. I felt a strong, positive emotion. It's like, oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be nice. I am so glad that this is going to happen. And when you have that real positive emotional response, that powers the manifestation process even more. By focusing your mind on what you want, ignoring everything you don't want, and bringing in all of the details that you possibly can, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, emotion, bring everything into that experience. Make it a full, rich, vibrant, vivid experience. The more you do this, the quicker it will manifest. And the more you practice these things, the better you get at it. And the first time you do it, maybe you don't have all the details. That's okay. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Keep working on this over and over and over again, and you will eventually be able to focus on the one thing for as long as you want to, with all of the details that you want to have in that final desired outcome. So that is the information part of today. So let's do a guided session. And I'm going to walk you through this process. And we're going to do a little bit of this exercise in a guided session, because here's another element of all this. It becomes a lot easier to imagine these details when you are relaxed. When you are able to relax, separate from the world around you, connect with the world inside, and you go into that self-hypnotic state your imagination becomes so much richer and more vivid than it is when you're awake and conscious. Okay? So, go ahead, prepare yourself, stretch if you need to, loosen any clothing you may need to, clear away any possible distractions for the remainder of this video, and then just relax. And you can start by focusing on your breathing again. And then, because we have done this a few times, you can simply remember what it feels like to be in that highly focused state of mind where you are in contact with the deepest aspect of who you are. And by remembering that self-hypnotic trance state that you may have accessed previously multiple times, and imagining this state becoming even more intense, imagine this state becoming a richer, fuller experience for yourself now. You are, in essence, manifesting the conditions in which you can improve your transformation into a more powerful manifester. So, focus on that deep internal state. Allow this single point of focus deep within yourself to completely absorb your attention. Feel yourself getting sucked into this center of power deep within yourself. And imagine yourself diving deep into the inner recesses of this pool of power, this ocean of power that is within yourself, this divine power of the universe that is connected to you on a deep, intimate level within the core of your being. And just allow yourself to continue going deeper and deeper, releasing all that you no longer need, releasing anything from the past that no longer serves you. Continue to release all the pain, frustration, worries, doubts, fears, memories of failure, all of that. The stuff that we released on the first day, continue to release it. Allow it to go away because we no longer need it. And allow yourself to connect with that source of power within yourself, that divine power of the universe, which is the essence of who you are. Allow yourself to connect with your true, authentic self, that person of power that you are meant to become. And at this point, we're far enough in where we can go ahead and start our process. And we're going to play a game where I'm going to suggest some things to imagine, and you're going to imagine them in as much detail, as much realism as you can. And it doesn't matter how real, how vivid you imagine them now, because each time you practice this, you're going to get better. And it's going to be a stronger experience each time you do this. And so let's start with something simple. Just imagine a circle. It can be any circle you want. It can be a line drawing. It can be the circle of a basketball. It can be the circle of a globe. It can be the circle of the sun. Just imagine a circle. Doesn't matter what kind it is. Just notice the sharp edges of a perfect circle. And then once you feel like you have that, then let's move on and imagine a square. Now, it can be any kind of square you want. Doesn't matter. It can be the square of a room. It can be the square of a building. It can be a square of a block on the city streets. It can be a puzzle. It can be anything you want it to be. And it doesn't have to be a perfect square. It can be a rectangle. But let's go ahead and bring that square to as much perfection as we can. Give it equal length sides, where every side of the square is the same length. And let the edges of the square be sharp and defined. And the corners of the square also be sharp and defined. And we're good enough on that, so let's do another simple shape. Let's imagine a triangle. It should be easier. It's only 3 sides instead of 4. And again, it doesn't have to be a perfect triangle. It doesn't have to be an equilateral triangle. All the sides can be different lengths. Just make 3 sides that fit together. And again, you can imagine any type of object, any type of triangle you want, whether it's a line drawing, whether it's the side of a pyramid, whether it's the roof of a house, whether it's a tool for graphing things on paper like we used to have in art class. Any type of triangle you want to imagine. And again, imagine this triangle with sharp, clearly defined edges, with sharp, clearly defined corners. Okay, so let's pick any one of those shapes and give it a color. Let's give it the color red. And imagine this color of red being bright and vivid and filling the shape that you have chosen. Now, this could be a cherry red that is typically used on sports cars. It can be the red of a sunset. It can be the red of a Santa Claus suit. It can be any shade of red you want. Just imagine this color of red filling the shape that you've chosen. And I know these are easy things to imagine, but that's the point. Let's start with what is easy and slowly build from there. Because when we do easy things and we are successful at that, we are creating a history of success. We are starting to build momentum that will continue to allow us to go from one success to another. Okay, so let's pick a different shape. And this shape, imagine it with the color blue. Again, it can be any shade of blue you want. It can be sky blue, it can be ocean blue, it can be royal blue, navy blue. It can be any shade of blue you want. It can be a teal color if that's something that appeals to you. That's got some blue in it, right? Okay, so now that we've imagined a few shapes, now that we've imagined a couple of colors, let's do one more. Let's pick that third shape and let's give that shape the color of yellow. Make it a nice, bright, clear, perfect yellow. And make it as vivid, as vibrant as you can. And see if you can crank up the saturation on that color. Make it even more vibrant. Make it more yellow than you've ever seen in your life. Can you imagine it even more yellow than that? Now, what would happen if you mixed all 3 of those colors together? Blue, red, yellow. Now, what comes out of that mixture depends whether or not you are thinking in terms of pigments or if you're thinking in terms of light. If you mix 3 paints together of those colors, the result would be something darker. If you mix 3 sources of light of those colors, you would get something closer to white. So I don't know which direction you choose to go with this. You can go with the pigments or you can go with the light. It's up to you. Just imagine these colors mixing together and what shade of what color do you end up with? Now take that shade of color and imagine it growing more vibrant, more rich. Make it a bright, wonderful color. Turn up the brightness on this color that you have created by mixing these other three colors together. And all of this is just simply a way of communicating to your subconscious mind that you want the details. When you visualize your desired outcomes, you want to see it in rich, vibrant details. And so as you move forward from this, and as you imagine the things that you would like to manifest, you will start to see them in rich, vivid detail. In fact, let's go ahead and practice that right now. Pick one thing that you would like to manifest, let's say in the next day or two. Something simple, something easy, something that probably is going to happen anyways. Because again, when we start with simple things and we succeed, we are creating a history of success that will build on itself and allow us to grow into more complicated, more difficult things later and still be able to succeed with them. So pick something that will probably happen the next day or two and focus on visualizing it. Focus on seeing the images connected with that situation, that event. Hear the sounds that would be connected to that experience, that would be a part of that experience. What would you hear in that situation? And what would you see in that situation? And notice the details of the sights and the sounds connected with this chosen outcome that you will be manifesting. Now, let's add in the sensation of touch. As you experience this desired outcome, this chosen outcome, as you experience it, what will you touch? What will you feel physically? And how solid is that feeling? Is there any textures involved? Notice the textures. And if there are no textures, notice the smoothness of the different objects that you are touching in that experience. If there are any smells involved, notice them. If there are any tastes involved, notice them. And beyond all of this, if there are any emotions that would be involved in that experience, how would it make you feel? What emotion would be part of this experience that you are now choosing to manifest? Can you imagine that emotion growing stronger and more enjoyable? What would happen if you cranked up the volume on that positive emotion 10 times over and made it super powerful? Okay, that's more than enough to manifest something simple. And so I'm sure you have done incredibly well in this experience. And as you will find, as you continue to practice manifesting things by controlling your focus, by controlling the imagined details of your chosen outcome, including the emotions that would be part of that, by choosing your emotions, by choosing your focus, you will find that over time you grow more in control of yourself so that nothing ever phases you. The most negative situations can happen in our lives, and yet when we are able to control our focus, when we are able to control our emotions, we can maintain a level head, a cool head in the midst of chaos. And that is an incredibly useful power to have. So as you continue with this program, you will find that there are other benefits beyond just the simple manifesting abilities that we are developing. Okay, so now that we have experienced this, you can now go ahead and return to your normal physical body. Bring your attention back out into the room around you. and realize that you have taken another step towards manifesting mastery. And that is meant to have two different meanings. So I'll leave you with that, and tomorrow there'll be another video. So until then, be blessed, my friend.